Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I want to talk to you today about the real existing Cold War between the United States and China. As they say about most wars, the first casualty is usually the truth, because the two sides are tempted, one of them or both of them, to start telling lies as part of the struggle. And I'm particularly embarrassed to have to talk about the lies being told by many in the Biden administration whom I know and I know better than what they are saying. So to avoid you being taken in by all of this, let me go over it briefly. Here we go. It has to do, for example, with the recent decision of President Biden to raise the tariff aimed against electric vehicles made in China from what it was before, 27.5%, which is a lot, to 100%, which is extraordinary. It means that every car, electric car, coming from China, whatever its price, that price will be doubled for any American who might buy it. An American individual, an American business, makes no difference. What that means is, of course, that you are discouraging Americans from buying that. They will turn instead, if they want an electric truck for their fleet or an electric car, they will turn instead to the lower quality, higher priced US made or possibly European made electric vehicles. In other words, the tariff protects the domestic producers whose quality is lower and whose price is higher from the competition that on July 4th we're going to hear is a central value of the United States, which it hasn't been and isn't. But that's not the untruth I want to talk to you about. It's about the explanations given by the president, by Secretary of the Treasury Yellen, and others for why this protection of the US industry and this gross discrimination against the Chinese means not only that we have kissed goodbye to the commitment to a, quote, free market, but that we are also telling untruths about it. First untruth: the Chinese subsidize their car industry. Well, that is true enough, but presenting it as if everybody else in the world, including the United States government, didn't do the same thing, that's where the lying comes in. We have subsidized our car companies with tax breaks, with outright grants, with tariffs protecting them for decades. In fact, as long as the automobile industry has been around. Calling the Chinese out for it is a peculiar way to suggest that they're doing something we couldn't, we wouldn't, we might never think of it. And that's not true. The second argument given, particularly by Secretary of Treasury Yellen, who I know knows better, is that they have excess capacity in China. That is, excess capacity to produce electric vehicles, vehicles of all kinds. That's also technically true, but a lie in the way it's being presented. It's being presented as if it's a sneaky strategy of some sort. It isn't. It's the normal activity of capitalist enterprises. Back in the 20th century, when the car business was getting going, there were 50 to 60 car companies competing with one another. They all fought it out. In the process, the successful ones lowered their prices. That's how they succeeded. And they were able then to drive others out of business. And 50 or 60 companies ended up with what we remember as General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler. Well, guess what? In the People's Republic of China, over the last 10 or 20 years, and right up to the present, there have been, get it, 200 electric vehicle makers. And they're competing just like their American counterparts always did. And one of their competitions is to face the reality, lowering their price. And when they lower their price, they hope to win in the competition against the others, which some will and others will lose. As this competition is unfolding, and that's happening right now in China, if you add up the capacity of these 200 companies, it's of course more, if you add it up, than the market needs, just as it was in the United States or Japan or Europe or anywhere else that has developed an automobile industry. Accusing the Chinese of some evil deed here means you're either ignorant of how capitalism works, and surely Janet Yellen doesn't have that problem, or you're tilting what ought to be an honest conversation into something dangerously close to dishonesty. And the low price of the Chinese vehicles, that's partly the struggle amongst them. It's been going on for quite a while as this competitive process works itself out. It's not that they have low prices because they have subsidies or because they have excess capacity. It's the normal process of capitalist competition ending up with a handful, 2, 3, 4 capitalist mega corporations. It has happened in most industries, in most capitalist countries, including the United States. It is dangerous when two nuclear economic powerhouses have to start talking like this, making stuff up in the nasty business of lying. The Cold War between the United States and China is heating up, and it is a dangerous mistake. We'd all be much better off, Americans, Chinese, and the whole world, if the two producers of cars, together with the others, the Europeans and the Japanese, and so on, because of course, automobile industry will spread. It'd be a lot better off if we got together to peacefully work out a division of the world's economies so we can all grow and we can all do better and we can all avoid treating one another in this way. I have no influence on what happens in China. Sad to say, I don't have much more about what happens here. But at the very least, let's be honest. Let's not make up untrue statements about what one another are doing. Let's give the chance to the Chinese to develop, as they have every right to, their own automobile industry. We didn't let the Europeans stop us. The Japanese didn't let neither the Europeans nor the United States stop them. We have brought down the price of automobiles quite remarkably over the last century, in part because of the return of competition, even after the monopolization process took place in Europe, in the United States. We, for a short time, had only 3 car companies, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, until the Toyotas and VWs of this world re-entered competition. The Chinese want the same opportunity. Are we really prepared for a Cold War, perhaps becoming a hot war, to stop this process? I don't think so. That's not in the interest of the people, for sure. Thank you for your attention. And in the mind of some of you wondering whether these things cost money to produce, they do. And if any of you would like to contribute to help defray our expenses, it would be enormously appreciated and would make more of these possible. Thank you again.